Welcome to the Gnarly Girls podcast.
What's up, gnarly beings?
This is a loose lipped, unfiltered, raw dogging, stripping down of culture.
No fucks, no panties. This is a labia of love.
We're your hosts, Tony Naj
and Serafina Supernova. And this is Gnarly Girls.
Hi, Sarah.
What's up, Tony?
Gnarly Girls, we're back after a 1 week hiatus where Sarah was vacationing.
Not doing a great job at it, but I did my best, y'all.
Where were you? You were in
I was in St.
St.
Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is such an upsetting name. I was like, I kind of want a t-shirt, but also like I don't want a t-shirt. Like you.
Wait, you just completely blacked out. Like whatever you were saying was not recorded. I can't hear you anymore. But I will just talk and say that I think when they're saying virgin, they're talking about pristine and pure. And that's why the islands, they're pristine and they're pure. They haven't been soiled or sullied.
Um, I think my mic just unplugged and plugged back in. Hello, mic check, mic check.
You're
Uh,
there.
yeah. And it's funny because there's actually like a seaweed invasion, like a toxic seaweed invasion. But I kept telling myself it's because I needed to inhale the iodine through the air because I have a thyroid issue. So I needed the seaweed medicine.
Well, the seaweed feels like a pubic hair.
It does. It's like the island is like protecting its own shores. So, yeah, that was interesting, smelling some rank seaweed. But then there were parts of the island that didn't have it. Anyways, what I was saying when my mic cut out is having US and Virgin in the same sentence is upsetting. And I kept trying to get a t-shirt, but it was just like an eagle. And then it would say like US Virgin Islands. Like it's so much US propaganda everywhere.
Well,
Upsetting.
it's also so interesting the idea that to not be penetrated by a penis makes you pure. Like the penis soils and dirties you, which is actually very like anti-penis.
It is. It's true. It's true.
Like the interaction with the penis is what makes you unpure. That's you know what when you're like a self that's like some self-hating misandry
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I like that angle.
I feel like there's a video on that. Don't let me forget.
Uh,
Dirty penis. I'll write it down.
I'm writing it down too. Are you guys
Uh,
writing it down? Write it down. Message Tony. Just say dirty penis.
no, I know a lot. Please in the email subject, just dirty penis, and I'll know what it's about.
Say.
All right, so we're on this grape culture journey together where we're kind of going through the architecture of our show, but also going through the foundation of grape culture through all these different systems of self-organizing. And where we are in the show is where we are in the planet, which is what is grape in the sense that the definition of grape is very it's wide, it's long, it's gray, it's confusing, it's unclear, it's not agreed upon. I think if we were going to say it was fully agreed upon, then we wouldn't have this issue within the legal system where truly only 3%, as we've said multiple times, of people are ever convicted of grape. So there's obviously a lot of confusion around what it actually is. Do you agree, disagree?
Yes, I agree. And I think something else you talk about in the show that like really has stuck with me and I deeply resonate with is like the shame and embarrassment of admitting that you have been graped or something grapey has happened to you. Like that is sort of embedded into grape culture where you don't even want to say what happened because there is this like yeah, there's this shame, there's this embarrassment, there's this feeling of being like dirtied and soiled and discarded, that I think survivors have to move through. We really don't like the word survivors. It's just giving like Survivor the TV show. I feel like it's like actually belittling what it is to survive grape, to like call a survivor a survivor. It's like more than that. You're like a fucking warrior, you know? You're not like I
I'm
survived.
a
You like actually were in battle. You are a warrior.
I'm a grape warrior. You should do a video about that.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, a grape warrior versus a grape survivor. Also, the fact that Beyonce did that song, I'm a survivor. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
And but it's also interesting, there's this like cancer survivor. The language around it is not random, right? Like how things get pushed out into the zeitgeist. So, okay, so one of the things we talk about in the show is a micro grape versus a macro grape. So I think I'll try my best to define a micro grape. And I will define a micro grape in the sense that I was the micro graper in a scenario. I think I have micro graped someone in the sense that I had a boyfriend and we were hanging out. No, wait, no. He was not my boyfriend. He was my ex-boyfriend.
Ooh.
It was an ex-boyfriend where we kind of got back together in our 20s to like have a night out. I think it was in our 20s. Must have been. So we're like having this night out and we're having fun. And obviously there's a history between us. We, dated throughout high school. We're in love. The history was deep. It wasn't just like an ex-boyfriend. It was a deep ex-boyfriend, someone who I committed years of my life to. Basically, all through high school, we were on and off. Um, but he and I were hanging out with, I think, friends and dancing and drinking. And I brought him back to my house, and he had a girlfriend. And he like did not want to cheat on his girlfriend, but I just like didn't fucking care, about at that moment. I mean, retrospectively, I care, I'm not caring, but in the moment, I was like, I think I over glamorized like our history in the sense that like I am entitled to this because of our deep history. Like I'm
Mm.
trying to go back into like what my psychology was because I think it's important that the more I can understand where I was coming from in that moment, the more it'll help me understand men who are Grapo, So was this guy in danger? He was not in danger. I did not force him to do anything. I didn't pin him down. There was no like physical force, but I definitely wasn't taking him seriously when he was like, I have a girlfriend, Tony. I was like, okay. So, I mean, maybe the culture would say I quote unquote seduced him, right? So, what's the difference between seduction and a micro grape? There was no forcing on my end, but there was a seduction where I was presenting. I was not presenting myself. It's I wasn't like, oh, look at my. I didn't give him any. I wasn't vagging him. I didn't show him any part of my body. I just was like, I'm down. Are you down? I want this. Do you want it? And then because I was like down, it felt like I wasn't listening to his I have a girlfriend. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. I mean, I'm just immediately struck by the fact that men would never do this level of self-reflection and call what you did for themselves a micro grape. Like I can't release that. It feels like a reach, and I also appreciate your self-accountability, and it's true. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah. Hell yeah, take responsibility. Hell yeah, take responsibility for that if you want. And also, it does sound like seduction. And yeah, it does make me in this moment question, like, what about it is grapey? That you weren't listening to him, that you were trying to convince him. Because I guess like seduction is also different than like trying to convince someone of something or getting someone to do something that's against their own moral code, I think is what like starts
But
to enter
I
greater.
was challenging his moral code
That's what I
because
mean.
he had a girlfriend,
That's what
right?
I mean. Yeah.
So it's not like he didn't he was down to fuck me. However, he didn't want to cheat on his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Respect, like, and I think that like I wanted it to go down, and I wasn't concerned about whether or not he had to like carry the moral guilt of this cheating of the girlfriend.
I see.
I did. I was cheating on a boyfriend. I'm sure. I'm like I'm never single, so I was carrying my own moral guilt, but for whatever reason, didn't fucking care. Like so there was also just a lack of empathy in the sense that I think I was like, well, I'm cheating and I'm fucking fine with it. Like why are you? and retrospectively, like I'm not happy with past Tony, like I'm not like good job because of this girlfriend. I'm fine with her cheating on her boyfriend because I'm an asshole when it comes to cheating on men because of patriarchy.
Fair.
But I don't like a man cheating on a woman, especially the fact that he did not want to. But again, I did not force him, but pr- this is why I think it's a micro.
I mean, what I appreciate about what's happening is that you are expanding the definition of micro grape so far that people who wouldn't have classified themselves as being a micro graper now have to be a part of micro because you've like, set the bar truly so low that within that there's a lot of things that can happen between the micro and the macro now. Like if the micro is you convincing this man to go against his own moral code, which I do think is that is like when I've studied patterns of like abusers or whatever, not to call you an abuser, but like getting victims or whatever to like assault their own sense of their own morality is how you then get this like psychological power over them to continue so
Yeah, which
I understand. I
which
don't
I did do. And I think the other thing worth mentioning, which is where I'm gonna like relate to the frat boy psychology, that we were talking about in the last pod, is I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it, right? And I wasn't too concerned about what he wanted. And I was convinced he wanted what I wanted because I wanted it.
Mhm.
Not to quote myself from the show,
Yeah,
but
I'm like that is a direct quote.
it is a direct quote, but it's so real because, like, and and now I'm going to say something horrendous. Horrendous. He did what I, this is upsetting, like, but we should talk to him and be like, did you actually want it? But I felt in that moment because I wanted it, he must want this, and then again, here we have this, double standard, which patriarchy is creating. I think it's very important that we recognize that patriarchy creates the ecosystem of double standard, period. Men are experiencing double standards constantly, and women are also swimming in the waters of double standard. Like I already have a double standard. I'm unbothered when a woman cheats on a man. I feel differently when a man cheats on a woman because he is her oppressor and he is subjugating her inherently by being a man within a patriarchy. So that is a double standard I have.
Is it a double standard if it makes logical sense?
But it's still a double standard in the sense that, like, I'm having a different, and I think this is where hierarchy, power dynamics, this is the complexity, which makes it hard for us to respect each other, men and women, because we hold deep double standards for each other. Contempt comes from the double standards, I think.
Yeah. And then
Like,
if
I think a man would really, a certain man would really have a lot of contempt for me saying that and be like, what the fuck? That's not cool.
Yeah, it's so hard because like Grape, it's all within context and the context does matter. And there is a huge cultural context, as you're saying, and it's not simple. And like, do women do the emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual labor to like release double standard when the oppression is still actively happening? Like, are we the ones that have to like, carry the consciousness forward? Like, do we release the double standard in order to like help liberate all people, even if we're not liberated yet? That is a inner conundrum for me constantly. Like,
It has to happen in tandem.
yeah. And like, women are so like primed to be martyrs as well, which I think makes us sick and doesn't make us good healers and activists and artists. And so like if we go ahead and we start like doing these more progressive things on behalf of the liberation of all people, like releasing double standards and whatever else, and like really looking at our bias and like changing what feminism means, then like yeah, are we okay? Are we okay? Is it just like women doing more labor and then we're gonna like martyr about it? And I guess it's like breaking the cycle and we're trying. I think
I mean, I also really, okay, so like another example to me of a micro grape would be pushing a head down for a blowjob.
mm,
That feels very micro grapey to me, the head push.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying about you setting the standard so low for micro grape is like, fuck the amount of times I've been micro graped is like,
Have you ever micrograped?
the first thing that comes up for me is I don't even like sex enough to do that. Like, I don't know if that's true, but that was my first like inner thought is like, I've never actually cared that much. I
Well,
don't know
what
if that's
about
like,
like in your partnership? Like, have you ever just like,
I mean,
have you ever
I,
considered anything that you've done a little bit of a microgrape where you're like, oh,
I guess I request doggy a lot.
what?
Like I will be like if like my partner is like enjoying like a certain position or like missionary or wanting to like do I'm just like give me the doggy. I'm like give it to me from behind just I guess the way I micro grape is by like getting in and getting out of there, as quick as possible so I can get onto my to-do list. It feels like my micro grape could be like a lack of presence in the moment.
Oh, so it's like you get into that because that'll make him come quick?
Yeah, and because I like it. I think my micro grape I mean I don't know. I didn't premeditate on this. The first thing that comes up is I don't care enough about actual penetration to micro grape. And then the next thing that comes up is I
But
think,
we know that penetration is not just grape, you
right.
know? That's not it. Grape is beyond penetration. It's an energy, it's a consciousness,
I
Sarah.
don't
Have you
think I'm as,
watched our show?
I don't think I was ever as confident as you. I think you've had like more sexual partners than me and you've had more confidence in your sexual expression as we've discussed. Um,
Okay, well, that's interesting that you're connecting confidence and the ability to grape.
I mean, or just like yeah. I don't know. My thoughts, this is where I can feel my own like sexual abuse and trauma coming up, where it's just like the fact that the first thing that comes up for me is like I don't even like sex enough feels connected to like early childhood sexual abuse. Like I think I still haven't actually broken through. There's still like so many things for me when it comes to sex that I've not even like I've barely even this is like me opening a vaginal canal. I've barely even been in there, you know?
Interesting. But I think it's interesting that you mentioned the word confidence.
Yeah.
Um, and is it confidence or is it entitlement? Because I think almost it's like entitlement presents as confidence, right? So as false confidence.
Yeah.
So when you're entitled, you you like that the frat boy archetype or whatever, or me in that moment, me in the moment as the micro graper. Was I confident or was I just entitled? Because again, I had the history. I knew he used to love me. I used to love him. I was entitled to him more than this girlfriend because of our history, our shared history, and our shared bond. I
I
mean,
think
maybe it is entitlement.
I think for you personally, it's both.
But I mean, I think for
I
me,
won't,
it's like we have to apply me to the like. I think the reason why I'm putting myself on the chopping block of being a micro graper, which is upsetting, is because I have to find the micro graper in me to understand the macro graper in me to understand the macro graper in us all. I mean, I think this is like the tantric Buddhist practice of empathy and compassion isn't just like, oh, I understand it must be hard for you to do these things. It's like we have to see everything inside of us, like the Donald Trump inside of us, the fucking, oh my God, the goddamn JD Vance inside of us, like the Peter Thiel inside of us, the CEO that stole the hat from the
yeah.
kid inside of us, like that is where we actually will enact change because when we see everyone as separate and like, oh, I would never do that, then it's like change can't happen because we're not like connecting to the psychological imprint of it all. So if we're like using me as this like mechanism to understand the micro to the macro graper, I do think confidence is fake. It's all about entitlement. That's what I actually have to say.
Well, I guess I do think in most cases with Grapus, yes,
Right.
it's like entitlement presenting as false confidence. But I think true, real, embodied confidence is something that you have. And I think it is kind of what makes it different. Like there was this like sense of self, and from other stories you've shared on the pod, and y'all will just have to go listen in order to get the juice of Tony hooking up with multiple teenage boys in a park as a teenager in one night. Like there was this sense of like, I don't know, it's giving like I'm having a hard time being like that was a micro grape because it's just like so feminist and like exciting that you like made the choice to just like claim what you wanted. And also I hear you and I also agree. It's like my yoga teacher said to me when like all those fucking Republican fucks stormed the Capitol, like we had class that night or something, and she was like, it's really important for us to each understand like how are we that person like storming the Capitol? Like how do we do that in our daily lives in like all of these ways that like aren't exactly that obviously, but in what ways are like we grabbing and entitled and think we can and like using violence to get our way? So I guess sort of like the meditation or the inquiry you're proposing to all of us is like, have we ever been entitled to be in relationship with someone's body in a way that like had them assaulting their own moral code? Uh,
Exactly. I have to like go do something. It's going to take me 3 minutes. We could pause or you
let's
could
just
just talk
pause.
for 3 minutes.
Oh, well,
Why don't you just go on a monologue for 3 minutes and
okay.
I'll be right back. Maybe it'll be even two.
I'll tell an OnlyFans story. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do think that part of my meditation on have I ever or have I not ever been a micro grapist, does like my I guess my struggle around articulating where I feel about myself in that is because of layers of my own sexual trauma that I haven't processed yet. And I think when it starts so early, like one of the main things that comes up for me is like just waiting for sex to be over. And I think when you're a kid and you're being sexually abused, you are just kind of like waiting for that abuse to be over. And it's like whatever you can do to like just get through it and like get it over with. And I think that sort of like get it over with program and like pattern and plug-in, if you will, has stuck with me through my life. And I'm still working out how to uh yeah, like find my own pleasure in sex. Like how do I like to fuck? How do I want to be fucked? How do I want to fuck? Um so yeah, this little micro grapus conversation has me meditating on that. And I'm thinking a lot about, you know, consent and my body and how I share it these days in my OnlyFans journey. And something like really sweet, touching, sort of funny happened this week on my OnlyFans, Serafina Supernova's Vault, that I will tell you all about while we wait for Tony. So, one of my brother's childhood friends, my little brother, one of his childhood friends subscribed to my OnlyFans, and I've officially like released my first solo video where I do like a classic burlesque striptease and then self-pleasure and then not to brag, but I do end up like coming and squirting everywhere, which was very exciting. And I did feel very proud of myself for that in my first little video. So it's been up for sale on my OnlyFans. Like you have to like buy it as an additional piece of content. And I saw that this person, my brother's childhood friend, subscribed to the OnlyFans, and I was like, okay. And then I saw that he purchased the custom, or it wasn't a custom video. He just like purchased this video that I just described. And so when someone purchases a video, you have to like manually send them the video. So before I did, I sent him a message and I was like, hey, like, thanks for subscribing to the vault. Like, I just want to check in since we like know each other from childhood. You know, like under law, none of this content can be shared or distributed, but I just like need to do my due diligence and like set boundaries and like, you know, look out for myself and like get your word that you're not gonna like I don't know what I was scared of, like retaliation, like this person sharing beyond their own eyes. Like it's definitely different when it's just strangers from the internet or someone from social media subscribing to your OnlyFans versus like your little brother's friend from
Yeah.
childhood. So I sent him this message and it was like, I like read it out loud. I was in the car with some friends and I was like, what do you think? Like, I don't want him to feel like shamed or weird that he subscribed. Like, I stay true to the episode about like when OnlyFans is the only option. Like, I am trying to create like a healing space for myself and for other people, like in the vault, whatever. So I sent him this like sweet message. It was non-shamey. It was just like, here's where I'm at. Like, let me know where you're at. Like, I need some like confirmation that you're gonna like respect this content. You're not gonna like show it to your fucking dad or whatever, or your brother or whatever. Um, so he responded and he said something like, um, he was like, I would never, share this video. Like, you were my first crush. Like, I could never betray you. And I was just like, oh my God, I feel like that just like healed like layers of my trauma. It was just like such a sweet little message. And yeah, that is partially why I'm doing this whole OnlyFans journey is to heal the layers of sexual trauma that like it can't always be touched through sex, even if you're doing doggy all the time. I mean, I do love a good pounding, but I don't think you can pound out the trauma. I think some of it has to happen like in the heart and through conversation. So anyways, Tony's back. That's my
I'm
story.
back. And I do know that story, and I think it's about rebuilding trust, right? And it's like you experienced a male that was being really trustworthy, and that trustworthiness makes you apply that knowledge to others. And I mean, I think this is again going back to like our ultimate like conundrum that we're in, which is it's like the healing of grape culture comes from the understanding of grape culture, right? And in order to understand, we have to like really self-reflect and really examine our own journey, which was why, okay, the head push,
Yeah.
I go back to the head push blowjob, right? That I think a lot of high school guys do. I think it gets less common as you grow up, but I think
I
probably
had it in
people,
college.
you out of college, a head push.
Yeah.
See, I keep trying to ask myself if I've ever experienced a head push. Like I can't tell if I've just heard about it or I've experienced. I've had no memory of a head push, but
Uh-huh.
I know I know it exists and I can like see it happening, but I'm like, is it happening to me or is it happening to some I just like I have a strange feeling like if someone's were to be pushing my head, I got a strong ass neck. I'd be like, what?
Yeah, no, I had a Christian ex-boyfriend do it who was like definitely like degrading me and like saying some things, which like I do think like a head push can also be hot in like the right context if you're some women have like rape fantasies and I think a lot of them or people and I think a lot of them are survivors and like trying to work it out and I think that's where like BDSM can come in and la la la. But this was not an agreed upon head push. This was like he was drunk and hated women and was taking that on all me. And yeah,
Yeah, you can tell from a head push.
what
Even
kind
like a head guide. I don't know. Like, I just think if you want to head, like the best way to, so this is again that we go back to the micro. The micro aspect of it is like your you're like insisting upon a sexual act and you're not asking, hey, are you into it? I think that's if we're gonna try to like figure out like the roadmap of what to do, it's not just like letting someone know you want this. Like, oh, hey, I would love a blowjob. Like, yeah, no, duh. The question is more like, do you enjoy giving blowjobs? Would giving me a blowjob be something that like you would be into? That I think is a much different question than like, did you know I want a blowjob? It's like, did you know I wanted $1 million? Did
yeah.
you know that?
Well, I think it's so funny because I was just thinking about like micro grapes of like not supporting like our anatomy and like our physical, like how many dudes just want like someone to come over them and like suck the pinu like this, like just right from above, like they're laying down like all fours, like you have to really just like that is not good for your spine. I am like I will lay down and I will have like a bolster under my knees and pillows behind me. And like you will be doing the pelvic movement. My neck will not be moving. My
Wait, so
mouth
you just are
or
you
like
just
I'll move
lay?
a little bit. I'll move a little bit, but I'm not gonna go from above like this. Like, ouch. Maybe like on knees, like at an angle, but then I'm gonna need like a sheepskin under the knees. And I'm also gonna need, listen, if you are someone with a penis and you're getting your dick sucked, you cannot have a frozen pelvis. You have got to be actively participating lubricating and moving your pelvis. And like, especially if you're also someone
What?
who,
But that can also like hit you in the back of
but
the throat.
that's where the collaboration comes in. That's where like the checking in comes in. Like you can't
Mhm.
expect the dick sucker to be the only one move
Working.
working. It is a team effort. Um, Yeah, there was something else I was going to say about micro graping. I think as I was telling my story, I was reflecting like my micro grapiness, I think like maybe came in, I'm like thinking about like middle school and high school, like from my desperation. Like maybe there was like
Mm.
like I read all these letters from my middle and high school diaries and this little like solo show I've been working on that I open up for men come inside of me with, called the D Spot. And like the desperation and just like the writing of the letters and like the needing to be loved and all of that, like even though it wasn't like physical, I think there can be like this that I've experienced from people too, like this energetic kind of like vampiric, like grabbing and codependency and like needing to like, I used to say like to men, like, I want you to like fulfill me, complete me. And even to my husband now, one of the first things I said to him was like, I need to feel like you're consuming me. Which is so insane because then I like really learned about my own codependency and like vampiric stuff in terms of like letting people feed off me or like how codependency makes you want to like take and like just be in that. So that upon reflection, I
Wait,
think
I want to pause and say this is why it is so important to see the grapist in you
yes,
because I think that Sarah's reflection of desperation was not something I would have come up with when I think of a graper, a male graper that's going around graping. But desperation is such an important word. And I think it hit me as so true.
yeah,
I think entitlement was a little more obvi, maybe for me, because I come from entitlement. I come from a long line of entitlement. But
I do
I
come from desperation.
I think that desperation is a really, really great point, and I'm so happy you brought it up because it is a big part of like this like male energy that's happening right now that's so hateful towards women. It is giving desperation. And I think that that desperation, when it's manifested in grapey violence, it's still desperation, like even though it's hard to be like, oh, you're done, oh, but I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it's a big piece of the puzzle.
Well, then I'm like, how did I heal that? I mean, in addition to all the like mind, body, nervous system stuff that's very real, like where you have to like retrain your brain and your nervous system to not like expect certain chemical hits in relationship and whatever, like the addiction to suffering, just to make it a little Buddhist as well, is very real. And also, I think, I mean, this is why we always are like, to heal grape culture, we need a spiritual revolution. Like the way that I started to heal my codependency or this like need to be like consumed by like my partner and just feel like, oh, we are just like, is my spiritual practice and my relationship to goddess and witchcraft. Like it was truly when I started engaging in my witchcraft practice, my meditation practice, my yoga practice, my embodiment practice, and like cultivating this connection with source outside of the church. I think that is the thing that started to like fill that hole that I thought could be filled by another person. And I think a lot of grapists are also in like spiritual turmoil and like very spiritually confused and really
Okay, wait a goddamn minute, goddess darn minute. Okay, like that is a wonderful point about the spiritual turmoil because a lot of Christian men, pastors are like constantly popping up in the news about being grapists. I mean, unfortunately, to children. And then, of course, we have the priests that are grapists to children. And then there is, the guru grapist. That's definitely happening as well. So it's interesting that if you've devoted your life to a spiritual practice, like these pastors, like these gurus, yet there is still like a missing source connection, it must be even more frustrating than if you're just like a layman or a person that hasn't devoted their entire identity in life to spirituality. So that it's like a deeper suffering if you've literally created your identity and your entire life around your spiritual practice, and yet you feel this void. And maybe that is why you're the ultimate graper, a serial graper,
Yeah.
because of this spiritual void.
And just like straight up confusion and like loyalty to the wrong doctrine and dogma. Not that any dogma or doctrine is really worth having loyalty to. And I'm actually not to like spoil this show for anyone, but I do recommend it. The Hunting Wives is this show that I've been watching, and there is this like youth pastor person who's like really obsessed with like straight edge Christianity, whatever, and he gets like really close to all like the girls in the youth group, which I had definitely experienced. I had like more female youth pastors, but I've definitely experienced this. Not this specifically, but that sort of dynamic. And so he ends up sort of like getting off on the girls who have like lost their virginity or like had an abortion or whatever it is. And then he ends up like literally like taking them and torturing them and like kidnapping them and like doing all this stuff. And he's like getting off on punishing these women because he thinks he's like doing God's work. But he's also like an alcoholic and obviously like very confused. But there is this like, I'm trying to do God's work and being like so confused about what that actually is. I think people are genuinely confused and in psychosis.
Mm.
Yeah. The Hunting Wives.
Okay, so let's go back to our
Macro.
original thesis is the micro and macro grape. And I mean, I think what we're really discussing is also the fact that like it isn't clear what grape is.
Yeah.
Because there's also you can it's like this is where I always kind of go back to this. It's like the legal system, and I think for us all, we all understand that like a macro grape, like the classic threatening knife to the throat, your life is in danger grape, right? Um, you should go to prison for the macro grape. I think that like most people are on board with like the violent grapes one must go to prison for, you know? But a lot of the more micro grapes, people are like, well, I don't think you should necessarily go to prison for that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel so complex about prison in general, as I know you do. It's like
I
for
do.
out.
I also do, but I think that the fact that like we as a culture and as a society are kind of like wondering like because I have a friend who's been talking to me about, because I talk about grapes all the time, obviously. And she was assaulted, like she felt assaulted. She felt assaulted. She experienced assault, but it was by a boyfriend. And we all know like the boyfriend assault is like, so there you care for them, but they assaulted you. And then it's like, well, you have consensual sex with them already, but then this moment was unconsensual. Do you want that person to are you like going to go through the legal system to deal with that?
Yeah, and probably be gaslit and told you're lying anyways.
Yeah, like a lot of people are like, well, what does one do? It like that is I think the very like the grape is so common, but it's like the macro grape where it's like, okay, you go to the police and I'm like, I have these violent things. You're already going to be questioned, when you're bleeding and you're tearing and like all of these things, there's a huge possibility you A won't be believed or B the person won't be convicted. So if a macro grape situation, you're already dealing with like that a micro grape or even just a grape within the context of a relationship, what does one do? Because there is no repercussion beyond just like telling your community, and even then you're not going to be believed.
Yeah.
And then the more someone micro grapes or grapes within relationship or grapes within a way that like the legal system isn't involved, the more they will normalize that, and then the more graping will happen.
Oh, yeah. I'm having flashes of like all these like I just why am I have so many? I think it's because I was so desperate and my just
Well,
programming.
there is a really interesting study that they did with all these men who sexually assaulted women who were in prison for it. They showed them like this group of, let's say, 10 men. I don't know how many it was, but it was like a bunch of dudes that had been convicted for sexual assault. They showed them a video of all of these women walking. And they said, pick your next victim. If you were to pick a victim from these women that you have these options from, pick the next victim. Every single one of these rapists chose the same women.
You can, it's energetic. It's real. It's like a,
Yeah, and it was women who had either like experienced abuse before, who were like looking around, like had that kind of like guinea
that
pig
was me.
prey animal
Yeah.
thing where they're looking around, or women that like had no idea of their surroundings, so yes, like it's not like there is a target on your back, but there is an energy that like these predators do pick up on.
Yeah.
And the fact that they picked up on it for the same women, multiple men picking up on the same women is very significant. So, long story long, the problem with not telling, even if I really don't think there would have been any legal ramifications, there just wouldn't have been. He did it again. And I think that's also why there was that app.
Right.
Remember, they keep trying to make apps where women can kind of be like this dude, and that app got hacked. I mean, I honestly think an app is the way, or some sort of database where you can just say like, "Hey, this guy raped me." I mean, obviously there is the fear of like someone being vindictive and doing it to be vindictive. That might happen. Yes, that might happen. But I would say that would be the minority.
Yeah. The
I think
minority.
that's a risk worth taking.
It's that's the point. That's the point. For people who are like, well, all these women who are feigning it and making it up or they're industry plants, like so many people, I feel like that's the counter argument to, all these women coming forward saying that Donald Trump is on the Epstein list is like, oh, they're just plants. And I'm like, are you guys fucking stupid? Like, have you heard this man just say, and he say like one sentence? Like, men who are saying things like, I just grabbed them by the pussy are definitely raping women. Like, that's not a statement that you make and then don't rape. It's like that's a statement that you make if you're already raping. It's not like a state.
Raping.
Sorry, it's not like a statement to graping pipeline. It's like the graping is part of what's happening, and then the statements are being made that are grapey. You don't just start talking shit on.
A graping statement pipeline is really funny.
I'll write it down. I need lots of video ideas right now. I'm on a
Yeah,
roll.
you're making the statements because you're graping. You're making the statements about your daughter because you're graping. You're
Yeah.
making these statements
It's already
because,
been psychologically digested.
yeah.
Should we talk about macro? Like, I feel like it's really actually important, like, to have the majority of this conversation be around micro, because then macro is defined in relationship to the full spectrum of what micro could be. And we kind of already know what like macro grape
Yeah,
is.
I think everyone knows what macro is. I think
Yeah,
the confusion is what micro is and to
yeah,
what extent. Okay, so again, this is something we talk about in the show, or I talk about in the show, but I think that the definition of grape that we've had for most of time has been the macro definition, and that is what we will see through our media, because that in turn will manipulate us to believing that grape only is this macro, which was why you would have like there's this scene that Jodie Foster was in this movie called The Accused, and there's like I think it's like a 12-minute gang grape scene that is really bad, and it goes on, it's gratuitous. Like it just goes on for a really, really long time. And I think that the reason why the media puts out visually in Hollywood and within the news macro grape is because then we compare our micro grapes to the macro grape, and then we gaslight ourselves into being like, well, what happened to me isn't as bad as that, so it's not grape. So
yeah,
the macro definition of grape being as extreme as it is, and like the visions we all have in our head of like someone holding you down while you're screaming no, fighting for your life, you know, like Gandhi, I've talked about it's hard. I think I talked about this in the other my other podcast, Come Inside of Me, but like Gandhi would say that if you should fight to the death if you're getting raped. That was like his position. Gandhi's a very problematic figure when it comes to women, just so you know. But you can listen to my other podcast about it if you want to get into it. But it's like assuming that you would rather be dead. than to like be graped and then continue to live a full life, you know? That's his implication, which is indicative. But I think that the reason why the macro grape definition that we all have in our head is so dangerous is because it negates all of these violations. And again, like I'm going through this with like so many friends because I talk about this publicly who kind of are still like, wait, was it really grape? What happened to me? Like, especially when it's within relationships, I think that those are the hardest to reconcile. But they happen all the time, you know? Even if you're like bleeding after, you're like, well, fuck, even if there's like, if it was a stranger and you were bleeding after sex and like there was a tearing, you would be like, oh, that was grape, but it happens with a boyfriend. You're like, well, you gaslight yourself. And I think that's the whole point of the micro grape is we convince ourselves. Like I completely convinced myself when it happened with the boyfriend who drugged me. I was like, oh, because he kept telling me, no, you wanted it, even though I was like completely passed out. I was like, okay.
It's so weird. And like, I mean, so yeah, like my first grape was with my boyfriend and there was bleeding and I denied it. Even though I knew something fucked up happened, I was so scared about getting in trouble because I got like a drinking ticket and all this stuff related because I was drugged, whatever. It's a whole long story I tell in the show. And so I was like trying to like rationalize, like, no, of course my boyfriend wouldn't do this. And on top of that, I was like worried about like getting in trouble for other things. So I just like didn't really process it. Um, and then I started processing it and I was like, oh, and then it happened again with two other people the same year. I think a combination of like confusion, desperation, hating myself, and being that like animal that was like, just like,
Well, and I think this is the thing is that when it's like we talked about, like when it keeps happening to the same woman, people are like, what? What's you
what's
gotta
wrong
be
with you?
who gets grape 3 times in the same year? Like
Ooh,
that must be you.
yeah.
That must be you versus like every single grape is just like making you more prime for more grapes. It like, and I think before this show, I think I've also kind of been like, what? When someone is like
They're just trying to get
multiplied.
attention. They're weak.
I don't think I thought they wanted attention, but I remember being like, what? Like a confusion. I was confused
Yeah.
as to like, how are you getting grapes so many times? Like, like, are you not like, I probably thought, are you not learning your lesson?
Mm.
I don't know what I thought. I didn't think it through, but I remember kind of being like, huh, weird, like not like, yes, that makes perfect sense. Like that's actually adds up to the structures of grape and grape consciousness and what you are bringing in, because people are seeing that fact that like this violation means that it's like you're more likely to get violated again.
It'd be interesting to like do some kind of study where it's like women who have been raped and especially multiple times, like, or people, like what's their self-concept? Maybe even like in that moment, if they were to reach back in time and tap into that version of self, like what self-concepts and identities were they operating from and how were they perfectly primed to be a victim of this consciousness? Because it is a consciousness and it is spiritual and it is energetic and like there is a vibrational conversation and an instinctual primal conversation that's like happening between our bodies that is like less I mean it is actually fully scientific and definable. You could like set up everyone with all kinds of little testing things and figure it out. But the point is, it'd be interesting to see like what people's identity and self-concept was at the time. I mean, when I reach back to myself, it's like I'm definitely not worthy. I'm definitely not good enough. My body was a problem. Like I was a mess. I was like there was just so much happening. There was so much happening. And like I think as I got older and it started to become less like my peers and my boyfriends and more like these older men, it was like, yeah, like wanting to be chosen, wanting to be like seen as special. Like, yeah, and then like these, especially older men, know how to groom young women like that to make them feel that way. Like you're even being chosen to be sexually abused. Um,
Oh, yeah, that's so real. Especially when the power dynamic is involved with the hotel. I mean, I forgot about the hotel room scenario. I forget about a lot of grapey situations. I said there was only a few, but there's also all these attempted grapes that I often forget about.
The attempted grapes are interesting. And Gandhi,
The
I'm sorry,
attempted grapes are
you don't fight to the death unless you like literally have to and that's your only option. You fucking fawn your way out of that shit. And then
no,
you
I have some funny attempted I have some really funny attempted grape stories, but I do have a pretty funny one.
Oh,
Um, I'll have to tell. I'll have to tell you. I know you gotta go,
I know.
but
Is there anything else we want to put to
yeah, there's always more to say, but we'll make videos about it. We'll make some
I
videos.
feel like I need to end on like, don't worry about people falsely.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. I know what I wanted to say. We say the word women a lot, and I almost think like women is representative of like the female role within a power dynamic. And this is kind of like a strange thing to say, but I feel that like we know that women are not the only ones being graped. Like men are being graped a lot and a lot more than we know, and then the child, it feels like a whole other thing. But I think like it's almost like we're using the word women as a representative of like the person within the power dynamic that is being exploited. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And like that's why I'm always like women and people and folks and people with these genitals. Uh,
Yeah.
we really do have an intent to be as inclusive as possible, and we're just two people. So,
Yeah, but I think it is like we talk about women a lot because A, we are women, but I think it's like the role, it's like Hillary Clinton is a man.
oh,
Even though she's a woman, she played the role of man in and she also played the role of woman. I think she like experienced a lot of her own misogyny and et cetera, limitations. But as a warmonger, she was pretty dude. She was giving patriarchy with like her approach to like war and economics. So I think like the role of woman that we're investigating when we keep talking is like the role of the oppressed.
and like here are two things I'm not concerned about at this time. Women falsely accusing people of raping them. I'm not concerned. I'm just
No, unless there's a racial dynamic, I'm
yeah.
not concerned of a white woman accusing white man.
And I'm not going to say that women aren't predators. Like even the Hunting Wives, there was definitely a lot of that in that show. Like I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just like not as concerned. Like it feels like a distraction at this time based on where we are in the culture to be like, well, women are predators too. And you know women falsely accuse people of raping them all the time.
But
I'm like,
I mean, but we do have a whole section about how women are predators, and it actually is
it
important.
is
But
important.
I
I'm
think,
just saying I'm less concerned and I'm not putting my attention there because it doesn't make fucking logical sense based
yeah, but women are the ones that are bringing the sex traffickers in. Women are the ones that are convincing the women to be raped. Like
but
women
because
are
of men.
playing a huge, yes, but they are playing a huge
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. And it's why I also like to talk about like women being complicit in their own oppression and like oppressing other women. Like there's some bitches I hate on this planet for fucking sure from my Christian upbringing. Like that's for damn sure. Women are not absolved. I'm not a all women are great kind of gal. Like it's just
No.
you're never gonna hear me singing Kumbaya in a circle about women like that because I don't believe that. I just feel like it's a distraction from like the core issue at hand. And once like we're actually really truly looking at patriarchy, then I think we can understand how women who are being complicit in grape culture are actually upholding patriarchy and complicit in their own oppression more so than a man is for doing the same thing because of the inequality. And like these are all things we know. I'm just like,
Yeah.
so
All right.
I got to go be a coach.
Thanks for coming. Come see Grape Culture, 9/11, Boston, weekend of 9/26 Philly. We're on our way to Portland and Seattle in November. Go to the website, Grape Culture Healing, and support the Patreon.
Yes, and we have like a new cute little like workshop page and registration is currently open for our workshop in Boston that goes alongside our Boston Grape Culture show
9/13.
9/13 and then it's also open for Philly for our Philly Grape Culture show. We have a workshop that we're also doing in Philly. So all that info's on the website. It will be in the description and we send you all of our love.
Bye.
Bye.